I have just had the most amazing conversation with the incredible Georgie Donaghey. Georgie is the powerhouse behind Creative Kids Tales and Creative Kids Tales Speakers Agency. Now, what Georgie doesn't know about being a kids author, the publishing industry, and all the ins and outs of it is not worth knowing. So, join me as we discuss everything about being a kids writer, how to get published, all the advice you can give, all the little secrets she's got to share. You're gonna love, okay? We'll even find out about cake decorating, about how she got bitten by a redback spider when she was 8, and a few other really interesting tidbits. So, pour a glass of wine, coffee, whatever. Let's get to know Georgie Donaghey. Georgie, welcome to my show. How are you going?
Hello, Josh. Nice to talk to you. How are you?
I'm great. Now, obviously, we've chatted on Facebook and we've seen what each other's doing, and we finally get to speak face to face in person. I think that's fantastic.
We do. It's been a long time coming, but here we are today, and it's wonderful.
And I'm going to ask you some big questions, but before I do, you have been doing cake decorating.
I have.
Now, tell me, what's that experience? What's that been like for you, creativity-wise?
I've always dabbled in cake decorating. And earlier this year, I became the victim of the whole COVID lose your job thing as well. And pushing close to 50, it's just you and me talking, no one else is looking at this. No, good, okay. And I thought, well, you know what? I'd like to do a course in cake decorating, and I registered to do beginner and intermediate. Unfortunately, intermediate was cancelled. My husband always says to me, if you're going to do something, you start from scratch, which is what I talk to people about with CKT as well.
Yes.
And I found out there's a lot that I don't know, which I have learnt this term doing a beginner course. And I'm having a fantastic time. I'm making all sorts of things. I've learnt how to make buttercream from scratch. I have to say they're bringing cakes home every week for the last, 9 weeks has gotten a little bit too much.
I was going to say, because obviously your family are enjoying you bringing cakes home.
Yeah, but even they're like, I'm glad you finished the term, Mum, because now they get 2 weeks break, and they want me to sign up for next term. I'm not quite sure. Next term we move into naked cakes and 3D figurines for cakes, and I've done all sorts of wonderful things this term, which has been really, really good.
Yeah, I'm thinking about transferable skills. I'm very much a person who, okay, this has got to be used for something else. You know, it's hard to do something just for the joy of it, because I'm just one of those type of people. Are there any transferable skills from cake decorating that you can apply in other areas?
Well, when I looked at a cake prior to doing this course, you just see the cake, which is like when you look at a book, you just see the book. Now that I've been doing the course and I'm, I've learned some tips and I've learned some tricks and all those sorts of things. When you look at a cake, you actually break it down now and you see how it was made. I mean, even icing, like, for instance, a naked cake, you have to ice that and then put it in the fridge to set and then re-ice it again. There's a lot of different skills that go into cake decorating, just like there is with writing. So it's all about breaking it down and looking at the steps. But it's another creative outlet. It's something that I've really, really enjoyed. And who knows, maybe I'll start making edible book cakes or something like that.
That'd be a great idea. What are your thoughts on people actually eating these amazing creations? Because I see on Facebook, people have spent hours and hours and hours making these intricate cakes, and the kids come along and just demolish it. I don't know. I don't know if I would like that.
That's what it was made for. Absolutely, that's what it was made for.
Yeah, okay.
It has to be enjoyed. It has to be enjoyed.
The fruits, like as you said, all the bits go together to create a book. The book's not read or devoured in whatever time, then that's it's not doing the book justice.
Exactly. Well, a book you can read over and over again. A cake you can't eat over and over again. Once it's gone, it's gone.
It's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah.
All this talk of cake is really killing me at the moment because I feel like I need cake.
Well, it's getting close to lunchtime here. I know it's just past your breakfast time
Hey,
where you are.
people have cake for breakfast. I know they do.
Yes, yes. Why not? You know, let's all eat cake. Why not? I went shopping
Marie Antoinette said that. Let them eat
Yes,
cake.
yes, let them eat cake. I went shopping yesterday and I was having a look because I'm actually looking for some plain sponges I've got an idea for a cake while I'm, on break from term, and I wanted to pick some up. And I went looking, I saw, oh, there's a coffee scroll. I haven't had a coffee scroll for a while. And I thought, oh, no, it's cake. And I actually turned and walked away.
You
I'm a
turned
little
away
bit
from
over
the
cake
cake
too.
because there is so much thing as too much cake.
Yeah, there is a little bit, but But anyway, next term, apparently the teacher said for the first 3 weeks, we don't need to bring cakes. We're going to be working with fondant and making 3D characters and things. So
sounds way too serious for me. Look, Georgie,
no.
what was your childhood like? I'm just going to jump straight into that.
Okay.
What kind of
Okay.
childhood did you have?
I had a good childhood.
Thank God
I
for
was
that.
bitten
No
by a
trauma
redback
then.
spider when I
Excellent.
was 8. Sorry?
Sorry?
What did you say?
I said no trauma then, but then you said something
No.
about when
Oh,
you
well,
were
yeah, I
8.
got bitten by a redback spider.
You're bitten by a redback spider. Was it on the dunny seat?
No.
No.
No. Do you want me to tell you the story? I actually tell
Yeah,
this
go
story
on.
to kids. I use it mixing my fact and fiction, so you can't reveal these
You're
secrets
a
to
writer.
anyone.
You can do whatever you like.
Okay, so I start by telling the kids this story. When I was 8 years old, I got bitten by a redback spider, but I mix in some fiction with it, and I get them to tell me what is actually fact and fiction. So when I was 8 years old, it was a hot day, and I wanted to build a cubby house under the house I lived in. Now, the house I was living in kind of on stilts, so at 8 years old, I could stand up underneath it. I went downstairs and I started sweeping underneath the house and cleaning up. There was a lot of broken pots, and my father used to carve in the tombstones for funerals and things like that. So there was a lot of there's a lot of sandstone dust and things under the house. So I would have to clean that up, and there was some old broken terracotta pots and things like that. So I was sweeping away and decided to move some pots. And as I picked up one of the terracotta pots, I felt a little prick on the finger. And as I was putting the pot down, I noticed this shimmering fine string glistening. And at the very end of it was this dangling spider. And as it spun around, I saw a little fleck of red. So I knew what it was straight away. I called out to Mum, and Mum, God love her, was a rather large lady. So quite comically, her bounding down the 12 or so stairs that we had to get down to the backyard looked a little bit funny. But anyway, like I said, God love Mum. I told Mum what happened. She came running over and she noticed the redback spider. She jumped up and down on it and made it part of the cement. And did not do what you should do and catch it in a jar very safely and take it to the hospital along with me to make sure that I was okay.
You got the right.
So we went along to the hospital minus the spider, and because we didn't have the spider, I had to spend some time in casualty. Now, this was the first time, or emergency as they call it now. This was the first time I'd been to hospital after I was born. I had no broken arms, no broken limbs, very uneventful childhood. Didn't climb roofs and jump off like other famous author friends of mine did. I laid in casualty on my own. I think Mum must have been talking to them at the desk. I was put in this room. It must have been busy. There was a wall and I was behind a door and I was on this bed, and along the wall next to me was jars and jars of petrified insects, spiders, snakes. So that was my first hospital memory. And even though they were all petrified, and I would swear to this day that they were moving and they were all looking at me. So as it turned out, the redback...
Depends on what medication they'd given you.
They hadn't given me any. They were just monitoring me to make sure that, I didn't, succumb to my spider bite, which happened to be a male spider, thank goodness.
Oh,
so
okay.
It wasn't poisonous.
Yes, good.
So, but that's the story that I share with kids. Now, which part of it do you think is fiction?
Your mother bounding down the stairs. Your father being the chipping away at the tombstones.
Yes, Dad was a butcher.
Because I was going to say, that's a really cool job, is to tombstone engraver, whatever you want to call it.
And kids love gory. If you talk to them about anything like tombstones or things like that, they love it. So as soon as I mentioned that part, I've got them straight away.
Because it's something unusual, it's something a bit creepy, it's macabre, you know, it relates to ghosts and the paranormal. And even as a kid, I always loved ghosts and the paranormal and stuff like that. It's amazing.
Yes.
So that's how you hook them in.
So I throw in a little bit of fact and fiction, but I didn't do that in the beginning. It wasn't until I had, it was a long way into my school sessions and I was talking, it came up about the spider. I can't even remember how it happened. And one of the boys in the front row looked up at me and said, wow, is that where you get your writing skills, your writing superpowers from? And I thought, well, that's the same year I won my first writing competition. So maybe. And I straight away went home and rewrote my bio. And another friend I was talking to a few weeks ago was asking about what experiences you had as a child if you went away to camp. And I remember I went away to camp when I was young and I'd forgotten that I actually got sick when I was at camp from swallowing a glowworm.
Oh.
And I thought, there's another good story that I have to bring up with kids.
Great story. And of course, as you know, doing the school incursions, it's the stories that you tell that engage the kids. And they're sitting on the edge of their seats going, what happened? What happened? What happened?
Yes.
You know, I mistakenly told a story with in the beginning when I first started doing these school visits that, you know, I was talking about making a mistake and I said that I actually set the couch on fire, the family couch on fire. And of course, for the rest of the session, they all wanted to know how much I got in trouble. Did I get my pocket money taken away? And I couldn't bring them back again. It's all these questions. So I stopped telling them that story and I said, don't do this at home.
Well, maybe you need to tell that at the end of your session so they get you to come back and finish the couch.
See, that's why I'm talking to you, Georgie. You are the master at this. Now, speaking of being the master, you run Creative Kids Tales. You've got Creative Kids Tales Agency. You nurture all these up-and-coming authors, illustrators. How do you get the energy? Where did the inspiration come from to do all this?
Well, when my son was little, he was a non-sleeper. So I used to sit at the foot of his bed and tap away, and I gave myself the goal of writing 1,000 words a night. At the time, I was writing a murder mystery. So I didn't begin in children's writing. When he was old enough to read those stories to, I didn't think that was the right story to read to him. So I started making things up about, you know, silly things in his bedroom. You know, there was a sock up on the bookshelf in his room. So we talked about, you know, what could be living in that sock. Perhaps there's fairies. There was always a noisy cricket outside his bedroom.
Didn't give him nightmares about socks and he'll never wear socks ever again.
No. Just reminded me I had to clean his bedroom a little bit more. So I just made up stories, you know, about things around his bedroom. And to me, that felt like an old pair of comfy slippers, you know, that fit really well. So I started then writing stories for children, putting them down. I wanted to get more involved. Back then, the internet wasn't what it is today. My son's now 22, so it was a while ago. So I got involved with the CBCA. And I actually started a CBCA local branch. I ran that for almost 3 years.
Wow.
And at that time, you could only run the group for a certain amount of time before you had to step down. When it was time to step down, no one wanted to do everything that was involved with being a president of a group and running it. So
now, you had books published by then, hadn't you? No, you hadn't. So you weren't a published children's author, yet you were the president in your local area of the Children's Book Council of Australia, because you loved kids' books and you're all into that. Yes. Yep.
Yes. I always knew I would be published. I don't know how I knew. It was just a gut feeling. But I knew I wasn't going to get in through the front door with a publisher. So I had to open a window. I had to make my own opportunities. So I ran the CBCA branch, and after my time finished there, I wanted to do more. The CBCA is great. They're a wonderful group. They nurture authors. But I wanted to do a little bit more. There wasn't a website that had authors where you could go in and look at the authors' bios, you could look at their pictures, you could see the work that they're doing. So I decided when I had my third child, she was only a few months old, I'm going to start this website and help people. So luckily my husband is a website guru and he can write the website. I just give him the content, he builds it. And Creative Kids Tales was born.
Wow.
And we've got, over 200 members that are on the website. Next year is our 10th birthday. From Creative Kids Tales, I run writing competitions, have manuscript assessments, author personal training, tips, all sorts of things.
You've got the conference as well, don't you? The annual conference?
Yes. The Writers' Conference. So I had a bit of a bucket list of things that I wanted to check off. I've interviewed so many people. I've in the industry, both up and coming and established. Jackie Harvey, Andy Griffiths, Mem Fox, Sean Tan, so many people. And each month we feature an up and coming as well. So we have the balance between interviewing an established author and an emerging author or illustrator. This last 2 years I've been actually featuring organisations rather than published authors, because we still do the emerging, but there is so much more that goes into the industry besides just authors and illustrators.
Oh yes,
and that's
definitely.
what I do. That's what I do with my Invest the Right Way course. I don't teach people how to write. There's so many courses out there you can do that. Invest the Right Way is all the other information that you need to go along with it. Everything from school visits, PLR, ELR, insurance, networking, all the things that you need. That's a 3-hour course that I run, because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you need to know. So that course saves people a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy, because I give them the information up front.
And where can they find that course? That's on
they
the
can just email me.
Yeah.
I've run the final course for this year. I'm going to be running it next year, and I'm also thinking of turning it into a book. So
great idea. What about, could you transfer it into an online course that's sort of on Teachable or something like that? Could you do that?
Yeah, I'm contemplating a few different options for next year, but watch this space.
Okay.
I like to have it interactive because people can ask questions and I can give feedback straight away. So in this course, I cover the questions that emerging authors and illustrators didn't know that they have.
Yes, I know what you mean, because I know you go into this field with a certain idea, and then suddenly all these other questions emerge, and you see what else other people are doing. Go, well, how do they do that? What's going on there? Why are they doing that? Why do they need to do this? Or why are they suddenly getting a check from the government for their books at the library? What?
Exactly.
I can buy a bottle of wine with this,
I mean, there's so much. There's you can apply for grants. There's residencies. There's so many things that you can get to help you on your journey to publication that people just aren't aware of, and they don't know where to look. So those are the questions that I cover in my Invest the Right Way course.
Okay, so that's called Invest the Right Way. So you're going to do that next year? Yes,
I've run 2 sessions this year, and I'll be running it again next year. So I'm creating a wait list for next year. So if you're interested, drop me an email.
So, but again, why this desire to help? You could just be sitting there writing your own books, reaping in the PLR rights, all that sort of stuff, getting your royalty statements and whatever. But why invest so much in helping?
Well, I like helping people. I mean, from Creative Kids Tales, I did a short stint on radio. So along came the birth of the Author's Shelf, which I did on community radio. I ran that for about 12 months, and I interviewed Dave Pilkey, Captain Underpants fame, and Posey Graham Evans, who wrote McLeod's Daughters, who was also one of the founders of High Five.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And for the older of your audience, the older viewers that you have, she also wrote Sons and Daughters and things like that. So
Sons and Daughters. I remember that
exactly.
show. I was a little
played the
teenager
track.
watching that. Oh, anyway.
I played Sons and Daughters track, which backed straight into the high five theme. It was really good. And, you know, I interviewed Jackie French a couple of times and Andy Griffiths and lots of people on the show, which was really good. Problem with the show, 1 hour show, which I did each fortnight, took 3 days, at least 3 days worth of research, script writing. And I've always worked full time outside the industry as well. So, and I've got a young family. So it was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. But it got to the point where I needed to take a little bit of sleep, and I hadn't been published. So I wasn't putting as much focus into my writing.
Can you tell me your first getting published story, how you first got published?
I was almost at the end of a year of the author's shelf, and I decided after 12 months to put the author's shelf on the shelf for a little while. And it was just after that I got my first contract. I'd actually written a story, sent it off to a publisher, and I'd been taking some medication for a medical condition that had given me some heart palpitations. So I was actually on my way to the hospital with chest pains when I opened my email to see that I'd gotten a publishing contract. Not advisable when you're already on your way to hospital with heart palpitations.
Can I ask who the publisher was?
It was Dragon Tales Publishing. They're no longer running, but it was Dragon Tales Publishing. They folded. They published the book. It was done within a year. Illustrations, very great. My first one, which I just happen to have a copy of here.
Oh, Lulu.
Lulu.
I have seen that.
And she was published by Dragon Tales Publishing, but then when Dragon Tales folded, Wombat Books picked it up.
Oh, great.
And it has done great things with Wombat Books. It's on Kindle and Kids Radio. It's been turned into an app with Kindigo. It features on the Qantas and Virgin in-flight entertainment channels for international flights.
Well, that is so cool.
It's done some really, really good things. So she's my first book baby, and she's still going.
And you're still getting royalties?
Still getting royalties.
Yay.
I think she's actually been translated into Chinese. However, I haven't seen that book yet. It's very hard to get books once they're translated into Chinese to get physical copies. I've not seen, but I do see some money come through. So she's out there.
I'm intrigued, Georgie, because I see you put so much effort in and so much time, and you still, as you said previously, you had a full-time job. Now, as you said, COVID-19 sort of put ways to that. But I think that's what the misconception people have when they become writers. They have this dream of want this writing job to take over what I'm doing. And I speak for myself. I wanted to get out of a dead-end job, and I thought, if I write kids' books and I do this, and if I put all my energy into that, it will rescue me from that boring day job. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have to, or the other thing, the universe steps in to actually change it for you, like COVID-19, lose your job here. I ended up walking out of my other job and just had to make something work. You know, those sort of things. Do you think it takes a certain type of personality to put so much effort in?
I don't know about personality as far as you have to want it. You have to want it as much as you have to believe that it's possible. That's why when I'm talking to people, and I don't want to keep throwing my course in there, but when I'm talking to people doing my course, I tell them that they have to own the word author. Okay, you need to believe that you're an author. By the steps that you're taking, you're investing. From the first time you picked up a pencil when you're a child, you've started investing in writing for children, or in writing for anything, any different genre. You have to believe, you have to want it, you have to earn your stripes. You can't run a marathon without training. It's the same with writing. You need to learn the craft of writing, and you need to have all the other things that go along with it. You need to have a author platform, author profile. You need to there's so many things that you need to do. It's not just I can pick up a pencil and write a book. You know, when I hear of these people that, you know, oh, I'm going to write a book today and I'm going to sell it. Fantastic. Go for it. I used to make me really angry when I heard that. No, that's not going to happen. You have to do X, Y, Z. Now I just say, okay, go for it.
Yep. And I think it's one of the things I've heard a lot of people say, you know, people like Tim Ferriss or other writers, and they're trying to nail down why some people succeed and some people don't. And they were saying that some people are so fixated on the idea of being a writer or being an author, that the idea of doing all the hard work, they're not interested. It doesn't appeal to them. You know, to think about what your social media strategies are going to be, how you're going to build your author platform, rewriting your bio 26 times in a year, you know, reaching out to people, starting shows like this, doing what you do. That is the hard work behind the scenes, but it's like they don't enjoy that process. They only enjoy the idea of the end result. And it's hard to bring people back from that idea to go, well, okay, you got to start somewhere. Let's start small. Let's enjoy this process of building it. But they don't do that. I kind of feel there's a certain truth to that. Have you found that?
It's a long way. It's a longer journey than, you know, Dorothy's Yellow Brick Road, but it's a journey that you need to take. The first question I ask people is, why do you want to write? And where do you want to fit in?
Oh, I like that question. Where do you want to fit in? Oh,
they're two of the most important questions. And until
I'm
you
writing
can
that
answer
down.
those,
where do you want to fit in?
Okay. You need to know the answers to those questions before you can take your first real steps in this industry.
Does where you want to fit in, is that similar to what lane do you want to be in? What sort of, you know, type of writer you want to be? Is that what you're saying there? Or
exactly. You know, and what books do you want to produce? What outcome do you want? If you want an outcome that you want to be famous and you want to be rich, keep going. Keep going, because very, very rarely does that happen. You know, have a look at let's just look at the children's market in Australia. Tell me how many authors write full time who write for children and are successful and household names. 10? Oh, you think 10?
Maybe.
I think that's very generous.
I know that they're actually making a living from it. Yes.
I would probably say 5.
Yeah, okay.
That are household names that are making a full-time living out of it, and have done so successfully for a while. Because it's not also just about hitting the jackpot in 1 year and then you've forgotten about.
Oh, you've got to maintain it.
Yes. Keep going. So there's not a lot. Really.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
It's really.
Where do you want to fit in? I like that, because because when my publisher first said, look, Josh, we want you to put all your adult quirky books into a kid's book. And I went down to the bookshop, and I don't have kids myself. So it was the first time I actually went to a bookshop, looked in the kids' book section, and it was like, there are so many. Yeah. Absolutely so many. And then when I first got deeper into this industry and saw how many established writers there were, how many successful writers there were, 5, and then saw all the emerging ones, and everyone came out of the woodwork to me after I had my first book published and said, you know what, I'd really like to write a kid's book. Really? And why? What experience do you have? Oh, I've got a great story I want to tell. Okay. So that leads me to another question I'm going to ask you. What's the biggest misconception people have about writing kids' books?
That they can run before they can walk.
Yep.
Okay. Like I talk about in author personal training, you can't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to run a marathon today. Unless you've done the training, unless you've done the preparation, unless you've done the legwork, you won't be able to run a marathon. You'll drop after, depending on who you are, halfway down the road or halfway into the next suburb or wherever you're going to run that marathon. You need to be prepared. You need to train. You need to have the right equipment. You need to have the right runners. You need to have, all the right clothing to wear. You wouldn't go trying to run a marathon in a suit. So you need to know all these things. You need to learn all these things as well as the craft of writing. So you have to learning how to write.
Is it because kids' books just look so deceptively simple? Is it that?
Well, I say to people, just because you've got a picture book of 500 words, it's actually the hardest book to write. It's easier to write a chapter book or a novel than honing in and breaking it down to those 500 words. And every single word has to earn its place on the page.
Exactly. Yep.
If it doesn't, it's got to go. Every character has to earn a place in your story and move the story along. If it doesn't, they've got to go.
With as few words as possible.
Exactly. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
But keep it simple is one of the hardest things to do and that's one of the things of editing and how to get their idea down. My job by trade is a radio copywriter, so I write radio ads, and so I know the idea of word economy, of 75 words for a 30-second commercial. That's usually the average. So when it came time to write kids' books, I was perfectly suited. I don't need that word. I don't need that word. Get straight to the point. Get real. As you said, every word has to work hard to be on that page. It has to be relevant.
Yes, it does. It does that. So that's good training that you had there doing that copywriting. So that was a bonus for you. Without you knowing, you were actually taking those early steps and learning valuable lessons and tools that were going to help you produce children's books.
So what's the one big bit of advice you would actually give to, say, someone who's maybe starting out, they're making their first steps, they're doing the research. So they're not just one of these people that's got a great idea. They've actually started out on this thing. What's the one bit of advice you would give them?
To invest.
Financially?
It's not just financial. It's time. It's emotion. You need to study. You need to read lots of books in the genre that you want to write for. Go to the library, read the CBCA top lists, read the top list from the last 5 years, look at the speech pathology list, read extensively. So you're doing homework, you're doing research. Same as with any profession. You can't just, if you want to be a doctor, you can't just pick up a scalpel and I'm going to do brain surgery today.
Well, you give it a go.
Yeah, well, you could give it a go. I wouldn't like to be the one under the knife if that was the case, though.
Yeah, trying to find a patient would be hard. Look, I've got no experience, but let's give it a go.
Yeah, let's give it a go. And off you go to sleep. Yeah, no, you need to invest in your future. If this is the career that you want to choose, and it is a career, it is a job, you need to do everything that goes along with it. You need to, while you're learning to write, you need to be building your author platform, not just wait till you've got a book coming out. You need to be networking. You need to form relationships. There is so many things that go along with it, but it's not hard if you want it. You just got to go and get it. I posted something on social media the other day, and I can't remember exactly the term, but it was, nothing ever grows in your comfort zone.
That is so true.
Great. Yeah. But nothing grows. You've got to step outside that comfort zone. You've got to go and get it.
That's where the fear people have is going, this is going to make me uncomfortable. But the thing is, as you said, I mean, look, some people don't want to grow. It's the idea that they latch onto, but they don't realize that to get that idea and to bring it to fruition, there's got to be a little bit of pain. But that pain's got to be good pain. It's going to be, I'm learning something, I'm changing, I'm evolving, I'm growing, I'm getting closer to where I want to be. And that's going to be slightly uncomfortable. But people don't want that. They want to go, oh, let's just watch Netflix again or something like that. Or I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes I get a bit jaded by how many distractions there are to stop people from getting out of their comfort zone. You know what I mean?
I know. Procrastination is a big thing, but there's only, and as I tell people when they're doing all sorts of courses or going to festivals and things, all these things are great and they're learning tools and they will help you. But at some point you've got to go, now I have to do the work, and now I have to put my head down, bottom up, and start going for it. Because if I don't, I'm never going to have that book on the shelf.
Do you think that comes down to, I'm going to get deep here.
Okay.
You know, people have, you know, as you said, they go to the courses. they go to the courses, they go to the conferences, they've got all this. Is it a lack of self-confidence that they go, that's sitting there bubbling away underneath that going, maybe I actually can't do this, maybe I can't show up for myself, and that's what's preventing them to actually do that work? They can do everything else around it, like make the connections, yes, just go to the conferences, do several courses, read all the books, watch the YouTube videos, but to actually do the boots on the ground work, there is something about that self-confidence, something, a voice in there says, oh, maybe you can't. Do you think there could be a bit of that in there?
Huge amounts of that self-doubt. I mean, I still don't, I feel like I'm a fraud when I say I'm a children's author. Even though I've got books on the shelf, I still feel like I'm a fraud. And you know, my editor said to me that my latest picture book's been shortlisted in the 2020 Book of the Year Speech Pathology Awards.
Awesome.
And she
Congratulations.
said to me, thank I said to me, I don't want to hear any more of that self-doubt. You've made it, girl. You know, this is a recognizable award. You're there. So, you know, you've got to, I think it comes from, we sit in a, you know, our rooms and we type away. It's a solitary job, and we don't have people, you know, saying well done or things like that. There's not that instant, you know, gratification. Contract takes a long time. You know, rejections are huge, and rejections aren't just because your work stinks.
No, it's personal.
There might be some of that.
But it's personal.
But don't take it personally. Don't take it personally.
But people do though, don't they?
But this is what I tell people. If you get a rejection from a publisher, wear that like a badge of honor, because one, the publisher has actually responded to you. Most times publishers don't, and it's not personal. They just don't have the time because they're receiving hundreds of submissions each week. So if you physically get an email or a letter, I don't think people really do letters anymore, do they? If you get some kind of response from a publisher saying, thank you, but it just isn't the right fit for us right now, oh my God, wear that badge. That's amazing. They've taken the time to respond to you, so they can see that there is a glimmer of hope in your writing, and they're interested enough to respond and say thanks, but no thanks. Keep going. It might not just be suitable for them and their current list. Keep going. If you've put all the work into it, if you've had your manuscript assessed, if you've put it through the channels that you need to put it through, keep going.
Keep going. And I like what you said, wear it as a badge of honor, because when I got my first rejection letter from Fremantle Press, thank you, Fremantle Press, I just got a bottle of cheap champagne and I opened it and I celebrated, because I thought I was brave enough to even put a submission out there, to even apply. And when the rejection came back, it was like, I was validated because I was brave enough to do it. And that's what I tell everyone else. Because you got rejected, at least you're brave to submit, because there's so many people, as you would know, with that manuscript sitting in the third drawer down in their office or in their desk that never sees the light of day, because that self-confidence doesn't allow them to even put it out there. I know a lady who's quite prolific writing self-published, nothing wrong with self-published, beautiful, but she only does it because she's too scared of being rejected by a publisher.
Well, see, if she's already built up a list of self-published books, she could actually use that when she's doing a cover letter and selling herself to publishers. But there's nothing wrong with self-publishing. I'm actually self-publishing my latest picture book because I just love this industry and I want to get as much experience in all different facets as I can. So I'm doing the self-publishing. I've done self-publishing for Creative Kids Tales with novels and with anthologies. Now I'm going self-published picture book.
It's part of the thing. It's the zeitgeist at the moment, a hybrid author. But I think, to do one because you're afraid of the other. I mean, look, there's I suppose there's many different reasons, but it's I just found it a bit a bit, if she just had the courage to put it forward, then get rejected, then do whatever she wanted to do. But it's just like when the fear drives you, I think it can restrict how you go into the world, I think.
You know, when I actually, I'll let you in on a little secret. When I write something and I think it is the best thing since sliced bread, it's actually terrible. I send it to my editor and we work on it together, and it comes back and it's just hacked to pieces. And then I work some more on it and we go backwards and forwards. By the time it's ready for submission, I actually don't like what I'm submitting.
Wow.
Because it is had so many changes from, you know, this concept that I had in my head, but it's a tighter story. It's a much better story and it needed to be done. But I still have that, I've got to let go of, you know, what I wrote to start with, because by the time it ends up on the shelf, it's a marriage between author and illustrator, and you've got the publisher as well. So unless you're going to illustrate and write the book, which some people do that. But when you're beginning, generally a publisher will match you with an illustrator that has been maybe in the industry a little bit longer, or vice versa, just to help you get that foot up.
Yeah. I mean, I know that because I write and illustrate. Okay, theoretically,
you're multi-talented, of course.
but the thing is, when the actual end of product, so what I do my first version of, and then send it to the publisher, and then the back and forth, editing back and forth. By the end result, I've made my contributions maybe 65, 75%, and the rest is the editing, the publishing. So it is it's a marriage, and I know for me that my editor brings out the best in me. She would say, "Come on, Josh, you can do better than that. You can come on, think of another line. Maybe you could use another word here." And she forces me to look at it differently, so I know that product that I'm putting out there is going to be the best it possibly can be. Because, you know, I'm going to tell you a secret, Georgie. Okay. I'm lazy, completely and utterly lazy. And I'll go, that'll do. And it's terrible. And that's why I need my publisher to go, okay, Josh, this is fantastic. Love this, but let's lift your game here and here and here. And I need that. Exactly. That's why I'd never be able to self-publish, because it would look absolutely terrible.
Oh, well, I've still worked with my editor on my self-published book.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
Even though I've still worked with my editor that I work with. Gosh, I wouldn't put it out there, because even though I think it's, it's not, it's not, but you're right in saying that. You absolutely do need that other person there who can help you to make your book all that it can be. But it's still, when you get that first lot of, red marks on the manuscript back, it does. Your ego and your self-confidence does cop a few dents. So I can understand why people are hesitant to take that step. But if you're not going to take that step, why are you doing it?
Yeah. I mean, writing and publishing, whichever way you publish, it's not meant to be a comfortable thing to do. You
need to leave your OCD and everything at the door.
Yeah.
When you go in to sit down and write, you can't. It's kind of, it's like wearing your heart on your sleeve. You don't. It's your book, baby. You don't want anyone saying anything bad about your book, baby. But if you want to get your book baby out to the big world, you need to absolutely make sacrifices and take, parents aren't always good parents. They all make mistakes. And this
exactly.
Is the same. Learn from it.
With the covers of your book, do you just leave that up to the publisher and the illustrator to come up with the idea for the cover, or do you have a bit of a feel for what you think the cover would go with, would look like?
Well, I've worked with smaller publishers, so I've been lucky enough to be involved with the illustrator from the beginning, which is great. However, I know traditional publishers, generally you've got the publisher is the mediator between the two, and quite often the two don't speak. You know, the publisher is the one that does the feedback. But I wouldn't expect an illustrator to tell me how to write, so I don't tell them how to do their job. You know, I want to see what their interpretation is of my manuscript. I want them to go with it. I might see a few things where I say, look, you know, I like that colour perhaps. I know with this, you know, the one that's shortlisted in the Speech Pathology Awards, In the Shadow of an Elephant, I love everything about that book. It still brings a tear to my eye when I read the end of that story, because it came from such a special place when I was writing it. But I think Sandra did a fantastic job with the illustrations and the colours. I did give a tiny bit of feedback. There was some flowers that, you know, I liked that one colour because that's how they are in the savannah. But the illustrator and the publisher saw them as slightly different.
Just, yeah. But with the cover though, when you first saw the cover, is that how you envisaged it, or did you went, wow, they've got that, they've nailed that?
When I'm writing a story, and I don't really write a story and picture it as a book in the end. I write the story for writing the story. I see things in I hear voices. My characters talk to me more than I see what they look like.
Yep.
For In the Shadow of an Elephant, it was a completely different process for me. I wrote this after I lost my mum to dementia. A publisher actually said to me at a Squibby conference, have you written anything since your mum passed? And I said, no. And she said, please get in touch with me when you do. And I, a few months after that conference, I was thinking about elephants. I don't know why I was thinking about elephants. And I started Googling, and I came across a story about Lualani, which was a little orphaned elephant who was with the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in South Africa. And she had been orphaned at 4 months of age. She had the keepers believed she'd seen her mother being poached. She was the most traumatized little elephant that they had ever come across, and they didn't think she was going to survive. She was given a keeper. All the orphan elephants are given a keeper. Their keeper is with them 24/7. They have a keeper during the daytime and a keeper at nighttime until they're able to mix and mingle with the other elephants and survive. There was a very small BBC documentary done about Lualani, and I remember seeing this picture of her with a blanket, and you can see it on YouTube, with a blanket over her facing the bush and the shrubs, and she was just swaying backwards and forwards, and she was just so broken. And I've even got goosebumps talking about it now. I wanted to write about her, so this is mixing my fact and fiction again. But I knew she had a keeper. I wanted to give the keeper a son. So I wrote about Lualani. I gave her a boy similar to her age, Jabari, which was the fictional boy keeper's son. And then once they'd established a relationship, I got rid of the father, but not a nice possible way. Actually, the father dies, but it wasn't a nice way. So. But
you're a writer, you can do what you like. You can kill off your characters.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's I've got one of those mugs that says, you know, be careful what you do. I'll put you into a book and kill you. But I wanted the relationship to be between Lualani and Jabari. So, and in the end of the book, it's a full circle book. It talks about death, it talks about poaching, but without really talking about death. And I think I've done it. I think, I know you're not supposed to pick a favourite book, baby, but this one has such a special place for me. And when the publisher emailed me and said it's been shortlisted this year, and it actually was a finalist in the International Book Awards last year.
Oh, wow.
So I was really happy that it had received some recognition in Australia from where it had come from. And the real Lualani is actually still alive. I am a foster parent to the real Lualani through the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust.
Cool.
And in September 2018, Lualani had her first baby. And they named the baby Lulu.
Oh, awesome. You must have had a little tear in your eye. That would have been amazing.
Oh my gosh. When I read that, again, I got goosebumps again. There's just this connection. Like, they don't know I have a book called Lulu. I have written to the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, and I actually did send them a copy of In the Shadow of an Elephant and told them where my story had come from. And they were wonderful in their response. But when I read that Lualani had a little baby and they'd called it Lulu, I'll probably never meet this elephant in my lifetime. But I just feel like I have such a connection to her.
Wow.
She was so devastated after the loss of her mum. And I think our stories sort of intertwine. And whether we'll meet, I don't know, but my youngest daughter last night adopted her first elephant from the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Naleku. So we've both adopted elephants, and Lualani is now 16 years old. So So that 16. Was, some time ago. So that was a really long answer to the question. I'm sorry.
What do you think your mum would think of your book?
I actually took Lulu to mum when she was in hospital and read it to her, but unfortunately she suffered from dementia. She was in hospital with dementia from a very early age. I actually had to jump a lot of hurdles to get her. She's diagnosed before she was 64, which is very early.
That's really
so I had
young.
to jump. Yeah, I had to jump. They don't take patients until they're 64 for dementia. So we had to go through a lot of things to prove that she actually had been suffering from it from some time before. So unfortunately, I read my story to her, but she would have had no idea.
Yeah.
So, and I had an interest in writing when I was younger, but when I won my first competition, I thought, that's it, I've made it now. And I took a really long break until my son was young, and I started making up stories for him.
Wow. So in the shadow of an elephant, in the shadow of an elephant, how did that sort of help you with the grief then with your mum, didn't it?
It was such a hard book to write, and the first editorial notes that came back, like the publisher had Little Pink Dog published that In the Shadow of an Elephant, and they published Clover's Big Ideas, which came out before In the Shadow of an Elephant. Yep. And I know Peter and Kathy Creamer. Kathy used to be had been associated with Creative Kids Tales, so we knew one another. And then when they started up Little Pink Dog Books in Australia, they had previously had a publishing company in the UK.
Okay.
Lived over there, so they had history in publishing. I had sent them Clover's Big Ideas, and they loved it. When I sent them In the Shadow of an Elephant, I got an email from Peter saying I just made Kathy cry.
Wow.
And they had to publish the book.
Wow.
So when I got the editorial notes, my editor that I work with had to calm me down, because I didn't like the way that editor wanted to take my book. So we sort of compromised, but that editor saw a different end than the one I had. But we all worked together, and I still have an end very similar to the one I originally wrote. And as I said, every time I read it, whenever I read it online now, when we're doing school visits or in person, it does give me goosebumps and make me a bit teary. So I think if you can write a book that still has that effect on you, you've done something really good.
Special. Yeah, because that's what you want books to do. You want them to move you, feel you.
Jackie Harvey launched that book for me at the last Creative Kids Tales Writers Festival. So I was really happy with Jackie Harvey launching that book for me. It was just an amazing dream come true.
Yeah, amazing. So what's next for Georgie? What's next on the horizon? What are you doing?
Oh, gosh, anything and everything.
Apart from taking the immediate cake decorating next stage to the next level.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Never say never.
Never say
But
never.
I kind of don't like to, I like to have plans without having plans, because you've got to be fluid. You've got to be, you don't know what's exactly going to happen.
Who would
So
have predicted COVID-19 and a pandemic in 2020?
who would have predicted that the biggest purchase people could make this year was for masks?
I know. What is that about?
So I have a lot of material now, because I went to try and make masks for my family, and I got all the material, and they couldn't send me the elastic because elastic had sold out. So I now have
just a lucky band.
I have a lot more cushions in my house now. I've turned everything into cushions. So what's next for me? I don't know. I'm self-publishing a children's picture book. I'm running the CKT 10-year birthday next year. Festival, it's 10 years since CKT started. Launched the agency during COVID, exactly what you want to do during COVID, launch a speakers agency. But that's doing well, and I'm using this time to set up foundations. I'm contemplating printing another anthology. This time money will go to charity. I'm also turning my Invest the Right Way course into something, possibly a book, possibly online teaching tool, don't know. I do want to dedicate some time to writing this year, because believe it or not, I actually haven't written much this year with COVID. I've been busy promoting and helping others. So I've got lots of story ideas and lots of characters talking to me that need to be
They need to come out. They need to come out of Georgie and just to be on the page.
They do. My shower has got notes all over it.
Your shower?
Yes, that's the only place I can truly escape my children. I have a waterproof notepad and pencil in my shower.
What a great idea. I heard someone else had that too. Yeah, what a great idea.
So, yep, I that's where I write down a lot of my story ideas, and I can rip the paper off and then take it to the computer, and
away you go. So what's the most important thing in life to remember or focus on? I know, big question.
Yeah, big. It's a big, deep, meaningful question, isn't it? Obviously, family and friends are important. Living your true self, I think, is important. If you're talking about the children's writing industry, if that's where you want to go for it. But you've got to earn your stripes. Nobody owes you anything. Don't expect it to be handed to you. You've got to do the hard work, and it will come.
I like that. And the other line, where do you want to fit in? I like that one. That's a powerful one, because it can't be all things to everyone.
No. You have to decide. I mean, I started writing murder mysteries. And one of my first competitions as an adult was writing something for adults, not for children. You need to find your niche. You need to find, and I've heard publishers time and time again say that every story is already being written, but it's what you bring to it.
Yes. What can you make unique about it?
Yeah, exactly. They don't know what they don't know what they want or what they're looking for until it lands on their desk. So don't think, oh, my story doesn't have a chance. Your story might just be the one that turns their head and says, that does have a difference.
And look, you would know there are so many stories out there from all walks of life. I think a chance meeting, a chance encounter, the manuscript turned up just when they were looking for something of that type of manuscript, whatever. But the thing is, you've got to show up to be there in those situations. You can't just sit at home and be shy.
Yeah, you need to make those connections. Absolutely. Another secret that I share with people is, I say, when you go to festivals or you go to conferences or things, sit in the first row or the second row. I'm giving you all my secrets here, Josh.
Second row, first row. Yep. Okay.
Try the first row if you can, but sometimes it's reserved. And the reason being is the person who is speaking on the microphone is just as nervous as you. They're going to look for that one person in the audience to make eye contact with and focus on while they're speaking. Make that person that they focus on you. And the reason is when they come off stage and there is, you know, some kind of interval or, you know, social gathering after it, you could go and talk to that person and they've recognized you because that's who they made eye contact with. There's your in. Find something to talk to them about.
Wow. That's what a great idea.
They've made eye contact with you, go for it. You've got that connection already.
But that's not like, you know, too freaky stalkering, like.
No, they will fixate. If you're in the right spot, you've got to get your positioning right. If you're in the right spot, they will they'll make eye contact. And if all you could do is when they make eye contact, smile at them.
Yeah.
Then you've got them.
And do that sort of reassuring thing. Yeah, I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, they like what I'm saying. I want to stick to them more often. Yeah.
Don't sit there and a fallen slave. No, but if it's all about connections and it's all about, you know, like I said, you've got to want this and you've got to work actively at it every single day, every opportunity. Just because you work full time or if you can't, it doesn't matter. If you want it, go for it. You've got to do it, you know.
Yep. You've got to enjoy walking the road to it as well. The whole process.
Oh, exactly.
You got to enjoy that, or maybe not. What's not the word enjoy, but it makes you feel alive. All the highs, or the lows, or the achievements, or it makes you feel alive as opposed to being dead inside by just going through the motions. And that's what I find a lot of authors. When you speak to a lot of authors, they have their ups, they have the downs, they have all the bit. They've got to do the admin side. They've got to write invoices. They've got to do all that stuff. But that's part of what it is. And you need to look at that from the point of view of, am I doing something towards what I'm doing? Yes, I am. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show up.
It's a business. It's a business.
The business of being a writer.
And it's what the publishers can sell. They're not, if you're rejected, it's not personal. Okay. So you need to realize when you're marketing yourself and you're selling yourself to publishers, they want to know, can they sell you and can they sell your product?
Yep.
Okay? And they want to have an ongoing relationship with you. It's a lot of money to invest to publish a book. They don't want to just invest with a one-off. They want to have a long-lasting relationship with you. So go for it. Eat it up. Like, you know, take it. The hard work is what's there in the beginning. You still need to do hard work throughout your career. However, you need to build those foundations. You need to, you know, build that home that you're going to live in to start with.
I think that's brilliant advice to end on. Thank you so much, Georgie. You've shared all your little secrets and shared some.
I have. I've got nothing left. I'm exhausted now, Josh.
I'm sure you do have some secrets left. Look, thank you very much. Where can people find you? If they want to find everything about you, the courses, Creative Kids Tales, where are we going to go?
Okay, creativekidstales.com.au.
I'll put
Georgie Donaghey. Yeah, georgiedonaghey.com.au. The speakers agency, cktspeakersagency.com.au.
All down here. Yep.
Just Google Georgie Donaghey and you'll be bored with the amount of things that you'll see.
Or you'll be inspired.
Inspired, exactly. That's a better word to. That's a better
Much
word
better
to
word.
use.
Look, Georgie, thank you so much for spending time with me. We'll talk again soon.
Exactly. Thank you, Josh. Mwah. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hi, thank you very much for watching the latest episode of Josh Langley Gets to Know. Got any questions? Whether you want to say whether you liked it, you didn't like the interview, and like my hair's too grey or something like that, post a comment below. I won't get upset, okay? Now, gratuitous plug here. If you want to grab my books, Being You Is Enough, Okay to Feel the Way You Do, or Magnificent Mistakes, or all three, just go to my website at joshlangley.com.au, because it's about trying to change the world one book at a time, helping one kid just to feel good about who they are and feel good in their own skin. If we can just help one child, then they may help another child, then another one, then another one, and then that's how we slowly change the world. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next episode.